Good afternoon, and a very warm welcome to Pinhole Quilting. I'm Liz. My husband Pete is behind the camera, and it's extremely warm for April. It's going to change though. Sad to say, Saturday here, we will be back to normal service will be resumed, and these glorious blue skies that we brought back from holiday with us. I'm sorry, we could only do 2 weeks of pure blue skies, but Pete was up in Scotland earlier this week, and yesterday he was up in Fife, and he started the day off with -3?
Only -1.
Oh, -1. By the end of the day it was 22. That
Celsius.
is, Celsius. So that is a massive swing.
US terms?
Well, it's got to be like
30
twice.
Fahrenheit.
It's got about 40 Fahrenheit.
30 Fahrenheit to 72.
Yeah, I was thinking it's got to be about 40 Fahrenheit swing,
Yeah.
which is a bit like Houston gets, actually,
In a day.
in a day. Not very typical for here. Kind of desert-like conditions in terms of the swing. Anyway, we're delighted it's been so beautiful. Absolutely gorgeous, because both of us have been travelling around the country. In fact, we were nearly at furthest reaches of the country each. You were up on the top of the west coast, well, fairly up the west coast at Troon.
It was almost like a golfing trip, really. I'm not really a golfer, but I was staying in a hotel that was right opposite the Royal Troon Golf Club.
Yes.
And then I went to the next customer who wasn't far away from St Andrews on the east coast.
Absolutely. Meanwhile, I was down near St George's Hill in Weybridge, where it's a very nice golf course. But I wasn't playing golf, sadly. I used to play golf. You've done a little bit of golf, haven't you? Bit of pitch and putt. No, I did used to play. I loved it. But then, you know, what gets in the way, doesn't it? So we've been doing installations and maintenance, servicing and all that kind of stuff. We were just looking at where our week has gone, because it's been very busy, and sometimes you can't remember what you've done. You've got to look at your diary. Anyway, have we got anybody saying hello to anybody yet? So what I'll do is I'm just going to go through and say hello to Jill, that I did an installation for. Amara, 20-inch sit down with the lift table. We had a lovely day. We had an absolutely lovely day. Jill's got a lovely rescue dog from Romania, I think, kind of Alsatian-ish. Beautiful, absolutely beautiful. And we had a lovely time having some lunch and discussing inspiration from various people, which was really interesting. Because actually, I didn't mention this to you, Pete, but you know those lithographs that Chris has got?
Yes,
Yes.
I do. Yes.
Right. So you remember the name of the guy?
I'm trying to remember it.
Well, his wife is a fantastic artist, and Jill got her book by Porter. I've forgotten now. That's really annoying. So anyway, we were talking.
A great live little section. That.
Yes, it was. It's like, you know that guy. It's like when you try to think of an actor in a film. Yeah, but he was in that other one. You know, that one with David. Well, what was his name? It's a bit like one of those conversations. Eric. I'm going to say Porteous, but it's not.
Oh, I think that's right, isn't it?
Is it?
No, Revilius.
Eric Revilius.
Eric Revilius. It suddenly came to
So
mind.
Eric Revilius, a really interesting artist. He disappeared in a plane after the war, but he did a lot of lithographs of submarines. A friend of ours collects them, so it was kind of like one of those things where you sort of know a bit of the story, and then Jill filled in some more about his wife, who was also a very good artist. Then I talked about Sonia Delaunay, who was also like a really interesting artist, and somebody else that I discovered as well. And you just kind of go off. We went off on tangents, and it was lovely. It was just a lovely conversation, is really what I'm saying. So anyway, I had a really nice time doing Jill's installation. Pete, you did some installations and rebuilding and all that kind of stuff. Gosh, you did quite a lot of rebuilding, actually. You did 2 rebuilds.
I did 2 rebuilds this
Wow.
week, yes.
So Pete's getting fitter.
Dismantling a frame in... Now, this was shortly after a very long bike ride last week. So on Monday, my thighs were still screaming, and
mine were fine.
On Monday, I dismantled a frame in Cheshire and transported it to Yorkshire.
Yes.
And then had to reinstall it, finding that it had to be reinstalled on the 4th floor of a Victorian townhouse.
Nothing like a few steps
like a
after
few
a 100-kilometre bike ride. Oh, I did look at that in the diary, and I thought, "Ooh, that's going to be tough. That's going to be tough." Now I knew, because she'd already told me, it was quite a few steps.
I can't remember you mentioning it to me, though, Liz.
No, possibly might have not mentioned that bit. Sorry about that, Pete. Anyway.
That's the joy of being able to delegate, isn't it?
So that was one of your reinstalls, Yorkshire.
Then
you went
then
up.
I went up to see Isabel in Troon, and Isabel's online today.
Hello.
Hi, Isabel. I hope you've had some time to
Hi, Isabel.
to play with your new machine. I haven't posted photos yet, but you've got a lovely she shed in your home in Troon, and it's a perfect space for your Moxie XL with Pro Stitch Lite.
Lovely.
Let's say hello to. Well, no. From there, I went up to Fife and reinstalled an Amara with studio frame. Another glorious location, and
because the weather's been amazing.
When the sun shines in Scotland, as it has been all week, it's absolutely fantastic.
Yeah,
the scenery is superb.
It's been fantastic. It has been a fantastic week for travelling around. So I went from seeing Jill and discussing Eric Revilius and various other things to near Gatwick, East Grinstead. So big shout out to Georgie, if Georgie's listening.
Georgie's online.
Oh, good. Hi, Georgie. We've already had a chat today, haven't we, anyway? But so Georgie's Amara 20 movable machine with Pro Stitcher serviced that, and that was all good. And then I went over to see Sharon. So Sharon is going to be a bit of my inspiration for some technical stuff, like, maintenance. So it was lovely to see Sharon, who's got gorgeous collie, really beautiful marl collie. So Moxie with loft frame. And Sharon had done this absolutely beautiful Jacqueline de Jong quilt in her own colourway. I loved what she'd done. And I'm really looking forward to seeing how Sharon is doing that. Now, Sharon's inspiration, Pete, by the way, for ruler work is Jamie Wallen.
Oh.
Yeah, so we love Jamie. We absolutely love Jamie. He's a totally brilliant man. And it would be lovely if one day he ever came back to the UK. We had so much fun with Jamie and learnt a lot. When he came over in 2015, that's 10 years ago. 10 years ago. There you go. So that was me, and then I drove back via Cirencester, which is the most fantastic view, dropping down off the Cotswolds, and wow, beautiful weather. So I was very lucky. I had blue skies almost all the time. So back home, we've had Michelle servicing a couple of machines, and that's been going on while we've been out and about. So it's been a busy old week, hasn't it, Pete?
It really has.
Yeah. Yes. So that's us. So today,
let's say hello to a few people who haven't said hello to. So we've got first online today, Julia Crossthwaite.
Ah, Julia. Yes. So down near Dorking. Yeah, I think.
Second, Mary McPhillips.
Mary McPhillips.
Still haven't quite got back to with an installation date for your new Amara yet, Mary.
Oh, but we're close.
We're
just waiting for
customer who I'm waiting to hear from before I can finalise my plans.
Yeah, we hope to hear back from her so that we can crystallise that for you, Mary, which would be great.
Joan Arnold.
And Joan, Cycling Joan.
Yes, we're looking, Joan, at Forest of Bowland as a possible cycling destination. It looks absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
I was up near there this week. Let us know if you've
done the Forest of Bowland or anybody else, because the Forest of Bowland, we've watched the video, haven't we? Some videos of the Forest of Bowland. It looks epic. Epic gravel riding. We're getting into our gravel, aren't we? I'm trying to stay vertical on my bike. Well, going around corners, obviously, I'm a little bit less than vertical. So we're going up this hill on our Tour de Bristol, 100 kilometres, and we're going up this hill, and I did have to stop a couple of times, to say the least.
So let me tell the story. So we've got this intercom arrangement whereby Liz and I can talk to one another if we're reasonably close on our bikes, and I'm ahead of Liz at this point going up this really, really steep hill, and in my earphones I just hear like a crunching sound. And I say to Liz, Is that you? Are you over? Have you fallen over?
Are you off? Are you off?
Because
all I can hear is, well, are you off?
She's becoming famous for falling off a bike. So it's a slow speed fall.
It was into wild garlic. I came up smelling of garlic. I just got crushed. I'd crushed a lovely area, and all the aroma was now all on my cycling stuff. I cycled with the smell of garlic for the rest of the trip.
Some girls come up smelling of roses, Liz, but
no, not me. Not me. Yeah, I was trying to start off, and anyway, it's those clips. They went in too soon. I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready for it, so I was going too slow. Wanted to put my foot down, couldn't put my foot down. Luckily, the vertical thing down.
Yes,
beyond that, honestly, it was sheer with some trees. So, anyway, my bruises have nearly gone from the previous fall. I will get out of this alive. I promise.
So, Jenny Knowles is online as well.
Jenny!
Hi, Jenny, we're going to see you next week.
Yeah, next week.
Next Thursday.
Oh, yes, you've just arranged it.
I have.
Okay, see you next Thursday, Jenny.
Jan Collett is enjoying the sunshine down in West Sussex.
Fantastic. Oh, that's beautiful.
Oh, lots of people in the sun today.
Oh, look at that.
Jenny Humphrey in sunny Cambridgeshire. Carol Watson.
Fantastic. Hello, Carol.
Linda Jackson sitting in the sun.
Fantastic. Linda.
Eileen from West Virginia. I wonder what the weather's like in West Virginia.
Eileen in West Virginia. That'd be nice.
And Leslie Main as well. So we've got a couple of our American friends online.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're looking forward to seeing Leslie and Kay Collins at Festival of Quilts. So let's just talk about Festival while we're on the subject. So Festival of Quilts, the classes are filling up really nicely. In fact, we got notification from the organisers about how well their classes are selling overall. Really good numbers on the sales of the classes, pre-selling of the classes, and we've done even better than that. So some of our classes are sold out, which is brilliant. There's a couple of places left on applique on the Longarm on the Sunday morning, and definitely that's with Kay. You definitely want to come to that if you've got time. If you're there for 4 days, come along, learn all about applique on the Longarm. There's loads of different ways we can do that, and Kay's going to be teaching that. Then we put in an additional class, which is Pro Stitcher or Pro Stitcher Light on the long arms instead of an intro class, because we've got quite a lot of intro classes. But you know, I knew that, having spoken to Leslie and Kay before we set up the classes, that Leslie, who does a lot of the shows in the States, had said how much those classes on Pro Stitcher could be useful. So we slotted that in. So Leslie's going to take that because Carolyn's going to be doing some of the intro classes, but on that Saturday, Kay's going to be doing on it. I don't know why I told you that, but anyway. And then we got the clinics. The clinics are going to be really useful. Say you got your long arm, I don't know, 6 months to a year ago, but there are some things that you think, I wonder how I'd do this, or I wonder how I'd do that, or I always have problems when I'm doing X, Y, Z. Bring along those questions. You've got half an hour with a specialist, just you and that person, one-on-one, and they were incredibly popular. The last time we ran those, probably pre-COVID, we ran those, and they were so good. People came away just going, oh my goodness, I've learnt so much in that short space of time. One-on-one, hands-on, with people who really know their stuff. So you can book which educator you go with, and we've got some Pro Stitcher ones on there as well.
So those are for customers who already have a handy quilter machine, but if you're interested in learning whether or not a handy quilter long arm is for you, we have a number of introduction to long arm quilting classes on every day of the show as well. So
now, they're on every day. There's 2 sessions every day in the middle part of the day, 1.5 hour sessions, and it gives you, a bit like coming here, we can give you a really lovely overview of what it means to feel like using a long arm, the key features, and it's not like being on the stand. This is where you're going to have a real go at them. So definitely, if you're in the market, if you're thinking about buying a long arm, come along to one of those classes. Plus, we're running a free prize draw to win 3 sets of tickets for Festival of Quilts. Did you know about that?
I saw
something about it.
A post from Katie on.
Anyway, we're going to be Katie's going to be posting about that coming up. So look out for our free prize draw. It'll be open throughout the Malvern Quilt Show. So if you're at Malvern, come and sign up for the free prize draw tickets for Festival of Quilts. Malvern Quilt Show. It's coming up middle of May. And we're going to have our handy quilter long arms. We're going to have a lovely selection of those. You'll be able to have a play. We'll also have a selection of the Juki machines, sewing machines and overlockers, plus our new selection of the Schmetz needles and various other accessories for handy quilter. If there are specific things that you would like in advance, the week ahead of that, we'll put up a thing saying collect at the Malvern Quilt Show. So you can place your order, not pay postage, and just pick it up at the show. And what else? Anything else on the Malvern show? Or are we done?
Don't think so. I think we're
no.
done.
It should be nice. May's always lovely at the quilt show. And yeah, that's it on there. I knew that guy with the blower was going to start. There's a man outside he was cutting the grass earlier. I think he's going that way. But they're so noisy, these machines. If you hear background noise, it's that. It's going to look lovely though. Malvern, Festival of Quilts. Let's get on to the meat of the session. We're going to talk about troubleshooting, maintenance and frames and machines. What shall I do first? Shall I do the kind of frames and machines thing? No, I think I'll do the maintenance bit first, if that's okay, because then I can, yeah, let's just talk with our existing customers, people who've got long arms already. You might, every now and then, you can get issues. So I'm just going to cover a few of the things. One of them was one of the things that came up with Sharon. So using a piece of wadding or an old check shirt, nice soft flannel, possibly, I think I should remember, I use this if it's got sticky. Sticky stuff remover, Lakeland, is fine to use on this, but you don't generally need it. Polish your rails. Now, Sharon was having problems with her circles. She had cleaned on her Moxie loft frame, she had cleaned the inside of the wheels, which is on the videos. And she'd even seen Jamie Wallen, who polishes his rails, but they're slightly different to this. And what happens is, particularly the rail that's underneath at the front, where it mixes with a bit of oil, it can get mixed with lint and it forms this sort of white, hard little bits and pieces that just get stuck to the rail. You are, meanwhile, trying to do your perfect circles and they're not perfect. And it's very frustrating because you feel like you're going circular and every now and then it kind of does a straight bit. What you need to do is look at your wheels on the Moxie and the Moxie XL. Let me just tape that up. Pete, would you be able to cut that thread for me? If there's a pair of scissors. Da-da-da. I'm just going to show you what I mean. So there are different wheels on the Moxies from the Amara and the Avante. And what we've got is these wheels which are concave, and that means that you do need to clean inside these wheels, because in here, these are actually pretty clean, but in here this builds up. Let's have a look at this one. Oh gosh, they're so clean, Pete. Okay, let's look at this one.
Well,
here we go.
It's a very new machine. It hasn't had a lot of
okay.
use.
Yeah,
so far.
There's some on this one. Yeah, so it's like white stuff that builds up. I'm just going to show you. It's only a little bit black from that. There's like bits of fluff and oil, and it's a bit like the Princess and the Pea. A small amount on here makes a big difference to your control. Anybody who's experienced that will know what I mean, but it's just amazing. So when I walked in to see Sharon, because she said, oh, I'm having real problems, and we'd given her some suggestions, so some things that you can do if you've got a loft frame, like when we set up our studio frames, which we normally set up for other people. There is a carriage and rails that it runs on. If the distance between here and here, and it varies depending on the carriage, just by a small amount, these are in a little slot, so you loosen off these bolts, and starting at this end, you loosen off the bolts all the way along, and then starting at this end, you do this until it centers, and then you tighten them up, and then you move it along, and you do the same thing again. So this is something that Sharon had already done to see if she could resolve this non-circular circles. Okay, so you just do this, tighten them up after you've gone. Just polishing this still. Keep the tracks clean. And then do this again. And what that's doing is it's centering the rail to the wheel. That will reduce the amount of resistance you have. You can sort of do a little similar thing here as well on this one. And that gives you more control, more circular for your rails and your carriage. It's something that is, I think it's described on the setup. They do talk about it, but I don't think when you set it up, you necessarily know. You see, actually, I mean, you can show this, Pete. I just want to show this for those people who've got a loft frame. Look, this is the degree of movement. So depending on where the carriage sits, it'll sit in the best position if you bring the carriage over and rock it side to side and then move it away, holding onto it and tighten these bolts down. So that shows you there's quite a lot of variation. So you don't necessarily have to do both of them. If you just keep that one, you should be able to get enough adjustment with the back rail. Would you agree, Pete?
Yes, you can even leave those bolts slightly loose because
like we
then
have.
it will always find its own level.
See, we leave them loose actually because we're moving the machines around and we wouldn't want to be constantly. You've got your own machine sitting on a frame. You don't actually want to be doing that, but you know you can because it'll just find its own point. So that's the first thing, rails and wheels. Next, oh, where's my little board? Oh, there it is. Gosh, I thought I'd lost my little board. This little circuit board, just going to show you this. Okay, everybody see that little circuit board? For Amara customers, this is a circuit board that goes in the bobbin assembly area. Okay.
That's your bobbin light circuit board. There are 3 tiny little LEDs on there that you couldn't see.
So we always tell you keep your bobbin area nice and clean. And every bobbin change, you need to put in a dot of oil at the bottom of the hook assembly. Okay. Now, we've got videos on that, so you'd be doing this.
Sorry about the rocky rolly. I just need to adjust the tripod here so that I can show you what we're talking about.
Yeah, so someone's just done a quilt. They're going to be cleaning this out. Okay. What you don't want to do is this inside that assembly area because this little board, which has got little LED lights on it, is sitting up here.
Up in the top left-hand corner.
Yeah, top left-hand corner with a lead going into the plug. And this is from a customer that whose machine was serviced this week. And actually what's happened is these little LED lights have been completely obliterated, probably with a brush. And so the metal bit of the brush will have been going around like this. Someone's been cleaning it, making sure it was all dust-free and everything. And the board had to be replaced. So for those people who've got Amara, have you got a light in your bobbin assembly area? If you haven't, the lead might be unplugged. Otherwise, you've probably, well, you might well have destroyed your LEDs from a bit of ruthless cleaning. And if that's the case, then it's something we can replace when we do your service. Yeah? So, but that's why we're telling you, because we'd rather you didn't destroy it in the first place. When it's like that, that's definitely from someone doing that. The other thing is that if you would like to see a video on general maintenance on handy quilting machines, you can look at our YouTube channel. There's some good maintenance videos on there. Now, we're on to the good stuff. The other thing I wanted to cover was thread breaks. So, very frustrating. We've all been there. Your thread breaks, you fix it, you think you fixed it, and then it breaks again, and then it breaks again, and then it, now, I mean, is the window open so you can throw the machine swiftly out of it? Because this is getting very irritating by this point. So we've got a few different things we wanted to share with you about thread breaks. Firstly, when the thread breaks, don't move the thread until you've worked out where it was when it broke. So by that, what I mean is, and I probably need you to follow me around on this, Pete.
Okay.
Pete is busy tapping away, answering the questions that are coming in, which is really important, isn't it?
Did you want back?
He's back. Right, if we could go over here, Pete. Pete, the cameraman. So, imagine this top thread, which is like a teal colour. This top thread is going around the bobbin assembly area, something like 30-something times. Every time a stitch is formed, that thread will already have been around this bit 30 plus times in order to form the stitch, which means it's going through this needle and potentially getting worn. It's going through here, might get worn there, or it might even get worn on the little piggy tail. Okay, so
that only happens if you've done a lot of stitches, really, with your machine generally.
Yeah, the pigtail, we've just started to see a couple, haven't we?
Yeah.
Where there's actually a little groove.
Yeah, I spoke to a customer this morning and identified that there was a little groove that had been formed in this needle eye here. She'd done over 20 million stitches. So you've got to do at least that number really for that to potentially be any sort of issue.
I think over 20 million, we had one with a pigtail. And I think actually it depends on the thread. This is quite a strong thread, glide thread. So what's happening is, as the stitch is formed, that thread has been through so many times. If for any reason your timing is slightly out and the hook, or say the needle is too small, or there is that wear there, these are all different reasons why the thread might break. But how do you know which one it is? So when the thread breaks, I'm just going to break this up here. Right, so the thread's broken. Don't touch it yet. Have a look at where it was when it broke. So just as an example, I would look and I go, okay, right, went through there. Okay, the thread broke somewhere further down, close to the bobbin.
It can depend on where the machine is in the cycle, though.
It can. It can, but it gives you a rough idea, doesn't it?
It could be up.
Yeah, but say it's not frayed up the thread. That's what I'm going to start with. I'm going to start with not frayed up the thread. So here we've got a thread. It's just broken. Here, quite sheer. So it's more likely to be something in this area down near the needle plate, or even the bobbin itself, bobbin area itself. So what can happen is, if you're using a strong thread, strong polyester thread, if the bobbin in the bobbin case gets jammed, or the thread gets jammed, maybe you've got a loose wind, it can actually cause that top thread to break with a very short break, and it looks like it's almost cut the thread. In which case you need to look at the bobbin, not the top thread, and not one of these things. If it's sheared and frayed with loads of thread that's kind of like this, yeah, that sort of thing, now we're looking potentially at, I would say, old needle. Possibly, yeah.
So first thing I would do is change the needle, if that's the case.
If it looks like that, needle first. Then you're looking at, is there a burr on the foot, maybe? We've seen glide feet, which are plastic, which can wear holes in the side of the glide feet, and depending on how you're using it, it can catch on those. We've even sanded those down, haven't we, Pete? Mm. Or it could be that you've got a burr here or here. I mean, really, you shouldn't have burrs, but it can happen. 90% of the time, it's going to be the needle. And that is the case.
Or the bobbin.
Yeah, or if it's that very short break, it could be the bobbin. So those are, I hope those are helpful, because we know that it's very difficult to work out sometimes what it is. But, you know, people are using different bobbins. We're using aluminium bobbins, we're using these Magna ones, or we're using the plastic bobbins. All of them, we need to make sure that the plastic ones, that they're not soft, the ones you wound yourself, that they're not soft and not overwound so that the bobbin hasn't splayed. There's just all these little things. And it shouldn't sound like it's going to be too complicated, but hopefully it will help you identify what the issue is. Okay.
So thread breaks can happen for so many reasons. I actually did a previous Facebook Live which went through the causes of thread breaking, and there are so many of them.
Yes.
But I talked about the things that you should check first, and then before you started thinking about the more complicated things. We often see posts on Facebook, somebody saying, my thread's breaking, what's the problem? Well, there just isn't enough information there to give any sort of advice.
No.
So there's a whole diagnostic sort of check you need to go through, a whole sequence of things.
Yeah, definitely. So hopefully that, just thinking about, you know, taking a picture of that so that we can see it as well. But that's a bit on thread breaks, a bit on maintenance. And I thought the final bit I would do is on machines that go with frames. So we've had quite a few demos in the last week or so, and sometimes there are things on our website that we don't realize we're missing. And over time those things change, because a lot of people now, they'll do a lot of their research, and this totally makes sense. They'll maybe jump on this Facebook Live or look at some of our YouTube, and they'll look on our website. And you don't always find the information that you're looking for. But one of the key things that we're trying to get over at the moment, which is possibly not clear from the website, is that, well, let me ask Pete the question. Pete, how much space do you need for a stand-up long arm with the smallest frame?
The minimum space that you need for the little foot frame is 6 foot 6 inches wide by 6 feet deep.
Which is not big. And what's clear from talking to various people is they don't realise that that is the case. They think, oh, I've got to have a massive garage or a she shed or whatever. But the little foot frame for our UK homes, and I've even done a video of how quickly you can disassemble a little foot frame, it's become really clear that people don't realise that that's the case. So let's just look at the frames, and we'll come on to the little foot in just a minute, but we're going to start with the loft frame. So here's a loft frame. We've got a Moxie XL on it, and you can put a Moxie on it. So loft frame is 8 foot standard. You can put a 2 foot section in the middle to make it up to 10 foot. And it's a great frame because people think 8 foot, yeah, I can get that in, okay? So maybe they haven't got the really small space, but they've got maybe a 4th bedroom, and they can take out the bed and, you know, they can get this in instead. So the loft frame goes with the Moxie XL and the Moxie. And we're going to move on to the next one, which is the little foot frame, because this is really interesting. And because we've got a second user simply at the end, I want to mention this too. So the little foot frame with this lovely Moxie XL on it is a really, really versatile frame. When we originally sold this, it was just a big hoop like this with clamps on it. You pre-basted your quilt and you could quilt up to king size on it. That's still the case, you can do that. But we now sell it also with the little buddy, which is these 2 rails here. That transforms it into a system like the loft frame. So our little buddy system means that you don't have to baste it at all. We put our backing onto this rail and we put our quilt top here and with the wadding in between, and we basically get that as the take-up rail. All of our quilt builds up on there, keeps it flat between the idler bar and this bar here. We can quilt up to about 46 inches wide. Now that means that if you're doing something bigger than 46 inches, yes, you do have to baste it, but you know, you can spray baste it, you can tack it, You could even do it in sections instead of doing it all in one go. So kind of quilt as you go, but maybe in 2 sections or 3 sections down the length of your quilt, and that means you can use the little buddy for that. So what machines can we put on this little buddy? We can put Moxie XL. We can put Moxie on here as well, can't we? Moxie. We can put Simply 16, which is a predecessor, which is, we've got some second users of those in, and they're sometimes, available on our Pre-Loved Longarms website. So we can put the Simply 16 on here. We can put the Avanti on here. Again, that's a discontinued model, but there's quite a few. When people upgrade, we sometimes have them on Pre-Loved Longarm. And we can also even put an Amara on it. So if you love to quilt, but you're never making big quilts, perhaps you're an artist and you want to get the finesse of an Amara 20-inch. So the Amara stand-up machine, the 20-inch will fit on here as well. Now, that makes the little foot frame our most flexible frame in the smallest space available. So if you've got friends that are looking at long arms and they say, okay, I've got to have one of those ones that I put on the dining room table, or I clamp it to an IKEA trestle or something like that. Now, this is a really robust frame. These machines run fast, but they don't take up a lot of space. And if you need to break it down, you can take the machine off and disassemble the frame. And on YouTube, I think it takes me about half an hour to get the whole thing packed away. So think about that. As Bob Mortar would say, think on that. Next one, let's look at the studio frame. So we're going to come around here to an Amara. Amara 20-inch, this is. When we give these numbers, what we're really talking about is the throat space from here to here. So they're going up from Moxie 15-inch, Moxie XL 18-inch, Simply 16-inch, Avanti 18-inch, Amara 20-inch. Studio 3 frame is the latest incarnation of the studio frame. Studio frame is just a name, but it's a very robust 2-inch diameter rail machine that takes the 20-inch, 18-inch and 16-inch previous models. So it's a really lovely frame. It's got this precision glide carriage on it. With the newest incarnation, which is Studio 3, we can get the lights on it because these are CE certified, and it can go up to 12 feet. When you purchase one of these, you're looking at purchasing a 10-foot or a 12-foot. That can be set up as 6-foot, 8-foot, 10-foot or 12-foot, depending on which one you buy. It's very adjustable, and you've got a wadding bar underneath. It's a 4-rail system. So that's the studio frame. All the dimensions for these machines, you can pick up a brochure at Malvern, or they're on our website. All the dimensions that we've done our own dimensions that show how much you need for the frame, footprint, plus how much you need if you want to quilt from the front, alternatively from the back, or both. On the wheels, it makes it even easier because you can pull out. Those are optional wheels. You can pull out the machine from the frame from the wall. Plus, you might want to consider getting around the back. Some people do actually crawl underneath, but that gives you all of the measurements that you need. You might want to do a room plan and make sure that you've just about got enough space, taking into account central heating pipes. Just saying. So we've done some very tight. We've had people who've done it down to the last millimetre. And in fact, there's a deinstall that we're doing soon, isn't there, Pete? Where literally the door closed and it was like that close to the frame. It's unbelievable. The other frame is for the Amara 24 and the Infinity, which is called the gallery frame. So I hope that's helped. We've got loft frame, we've got a little foot frame, we've got studio, and we've got gallery. And it depends on what machine you've selected as to which one of those you'll need. And there's various options. And I think the best thing would be if you have a look at our website, but give us a call if you're not sure. If you don't think you can get it in, call us first and we'll let you know. We can help you with that and certainly answer any questions you might have. Right.
A request just to talk about that again, what it is, where you can get it.
Yeah, so sticky stuff remover. Well, I mean, I think my mum's had this for about 20 odd years because I found some when we were clearing out the house.
It's very good stuff. I
mean,
there
really
are various
good
alternatives, but this is really, really effective, for doing what it says on the tin, but it's also good for cleaning tracks and wheels and things.
Exactly.
And it's available in the UK from
Lakeland,
the store. I don't know if it's available elsewhere, but certainly
I don't know.
That's the main supplier.
That's where I've always got it from. Obviously, it's got some it's got things in it that you might want to just be a bit careful with. So read the back label when you're using it. But here it says chewing gum, tar, adhesive, wax, wet paint. We've used it very successfully where we've had sticky parts on the machines or on the tracks, and I've never had it affect any of the parts that I've ever used it on. It's really good stuff. There you go. That's it. I think we're done. Pete, I think we're done. If you've got any more questions or if you want to make any more comments, I'm going to be uploading this to YouTube at some point, probably over the weekend, and you can comment on there or view it online if you want to play it back and hear our dulcet tones again. Anyway, no further ado, I will say have a lovely weekend, everybody, wherever you are in the world, and we look forward to catching up with you next week. So, happy quilting. Take care.